Marcus Webb had always prided himself on being a professional. 23 years of smuggling contraband across the outer rim, and he'd never once been caught with his pants down. Well, today was apparently the day his luck decided to take a permanent vacation. The Galactic Enforcement Cruiser had appeared out of nowhere, probably been lying in wait behind that asteroid field for hours. Marcus cursed under his breath as the tractor beam locked onto his ship, the Wandering Ghost. So much for his reputation as the most elusive smuggler in 3 sectors. "Attention cargo vessel, prepare for inspection," came the tinny voice through his comm system. "Any resistance will result in immediate detention and asset forfeiture." Marcus glanced at the crates of Vorthen whiskey stacked in his cargo hold. Each bottle was worth more than most people made in a year, and every single one was illegal in civilized space. He was, in technical terms, completely screwed. That's when he heard the whimpering. In the corner of his cargo bay, huddled behind a stack of emergency rations, was a small figure. About 4 feet tall, pale blue skin and eyes the size of dinner plates. An alien kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old if he had to guess. She was thin, too thin, and her clothes were little more than rags. "What the hell are you doing on my ship?" Marcus muttered, but the boarding party was already docking. No time for explanations. The inspection team consisted of 3 beings, a Credian with mandibles that clicked incessantly, a Tellurian whose tentacles kept twitching, and a human officer who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. They swept through the ship with practiced efficiency, heading straight for the cargo hold. Marcus's mind raced. He needed a distraction, something to explain why he had a random alien child on his ship. The galaxy's opinion of humanity wasn't exactly stellar. Most species figured humans were barely civilized, prone to violence and exploitation. It was an unfair stereotype, but sometimes unfair stereotypes could be useful. "Inspection complete," announced the Credian officer, his translator giving his voice a mechanical quality. "Cargo appears to be emergency supplies and personal effects. However, we've detected a life-form signature that wasn't registered in your passenger manifest." "Oh, her?" Marcus grabbed the alien girl by the arm, trying to ignore how she flinched at his touch. "She's not a passenger. She's property." The words tasted like acid in his mouth, but the effect was immediate. The Tellurian's tentacles stopped twitching. The human officer took a step back. Even the clicking Credian went silent. "I see," the Credian finally said, his tone carefully neutral. "And you have the appropriate documentation for this acquisition?" Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a stack of falsified papers, always useful in his line of work. "Purchased her from a Kepler station trader last month. All legitimate, as you can see." The alien girl, who couldn't have understood more than half of what was being said, pressed herself against the cargo container, clearly terrified. Marcus felt like the lowest form of life in the galaxy, but it was working. The inspection team was buying it. "Everything appears to be in order," the Credian said, handing back the papers without really examining them. "We'll be on our way." As soon as the boarding party left, Marcus slumped against the nearest wall. He'd just convinced 3 law enforcement officers that he was the kind of human who kept alien children as slaves. The worst part was how easily they'd believed it. The girl was still cowering in the corner, watching him with those enormous eyes. She said something in a language he didn't recognize, then tried again in broken galactic standard. "Please, no hurt, I be good." Marcus ran a hand through his graying hair. "Kid, I don't know what kind of mess you've gotten yourself into, but you just became my problem." 3 hours later, Marcus was seriously considering the merits of a career change. Maybe something simple, like defusing explosive devices or wrestling space bears. Anything had to be easier than figuring out what to do with one terrified alien child. The girl, who'd mumbled something that sounded like Zara when he'd asked her name, hadn't moved from her corner. She'd accepted a bottle of water and a protein bar, but only after he'd set them down and backed away like he was feeding a feral animal. Marcus's comm unit buzzed. Vex Carlin's ugly face appeared on the screen, his scarred features twisted into what might have been a smile. "Marcus, you beautiful bastard. Heard you had a run-in with Galactic Enforcement today. Everything smooth?" "Smooth as a neutron star collision," Marcus muttered. "What do you want, Vex?" "Can't an old friend check in on his favorite smuggler? Especially when word's going around that you've finally joined the club." "What club?" Vex's grin widened, showing teeth filed to points. "The Humans Will Be Humans Club. About time you started acting like your species' web. Always thought you were too soft for this business." Marcus felt his stomach drop. News traveled fast in the criminal underworld, apparently. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Come on, don't be modest. Heard you've got yourself a little blue prize. Tellurian, right? They're supposed to be real, flexible." The comm unit nearly shattered in Marcus's grip. "She's not. It's not like that." "Hey, no judgment here. Business is business. Just remember your old pal Vex when you're ready to make some real credits. I've got clients who pay premium for that kind of merchandise." The transmission ended, leaving Marcus staring at the blank screen. Word was already spreading. Every criminal contact he had would assume the worst, and in this case the worst was exactly what they wanted to hear. Zara was watching him from across the room, her head tilted slightly. "Bad man?" she asked in her halting galactic standard. "Yeah, kid. Very bad man." Marcus sighed and pulled up the navigation charts. "Looks like we're headed for Outpost Gamma 7. It's a trading station on the edge of nowhere. Perfect place to lay low while I figure out what to do with you." "You no sell Zara?" The question hit him like a punch to the gut. "No, kid. I'm not selling you to anyone." She seemed to consider this, then asked, "You no hurt Zara?" "I'm not going to hurt you either." "Then why you take Zara?" That was the million-credit question, wasn't it? Marcus looked at the navigation display, then at the scared alien child who'd somehow become his responsibility. Because sometimes the galaxy doesn't give you any good choices, and you have to pick the least terrible option. Zara nodded as if this made perfect sense. Maybe in her experience it did. Outpost Gamma 7 was exactly as advertised, a collection of prefab modules bolted together around a central docking hub, floating in the middle of nowhere. It was the kind of place where people minded their own business, which made it perfect for Marcus's current situation. He rented a 2-room suite in the station's residential sector, paying cash and using one of his many false identities. Zara followed him through the corridors like a shadow, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. Whatever she'd been through before ending up on his ship, it had taught her to be careful. "This is home for now," Marcus said, gesturing around the cramped living space. "You can have the bedroom. I'll take the couch." Zara examined the room with the thoroughness of someone who'd learned not to take safe spaces for granted. She tested the door lock, checked under the bed, and even examined the ventilation grate. Only then did she seem to relax just a little. "Is good," she announced. Zara like hiding places. Marcus watched her claim the space and felt something twist in his chest. No kid should be that good at evaluating safe houses. "Yeah, well, try to get some rest. Tomorrow I start figuring out how to get you home." But as he settled onto the couch that night, listening to the soft sounds of Zara finally sleeping peacefully for what was probably the first time in months, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that home might be more complicated than he'd thought. Day 3 of operation don't screw up an alien child's life, and Marcus was beginning to understand why most people left parenting to the professionals. Or at least to people who knew the difference between Tellurian dietary requirements and food that won't kill you. "No, no, no," Zara shouted, pointing at the smoking remains of what had once been a perfectly innocent protein synthesizer. "Bad food. Makes sick. Marcus stared at the machine, which was now making concerning beeping sounds and occasionally sparking. How was I supposed to know Tellurians are allergic to synthetic amino acids? You ask. Zara threw her hands up in exasperation. Always ask before make food. Right. Ask first. Got it. Marcus made a mental note to add learn basic xenobiology to his growing list of parenting skills he desperately needed. So what do you normally eat? Zara's expression immediately closed off, the brief moment of animated frustration replaced by the careful mask she usually wore. Zara eat what given. That's not what I asked. She was quiet for a long moment, picking at the edge of her ragged sleeve. Before bad times, Mama make keth raw, is like soft bread, but sweet, with little fruits. Okay, and where would I find keth raw ingredients? No find here. Is only on Tellus Prime in the growing caves. Her voice got smaller. But growing caves gone now. Bad people come with fire ships. Marcus felt that familiar twist in his chest again. The raiders who took you. Zara nodded, not meeting his eyes. Take everything. Food, people, homes. Zara hide in the deep caves, but they find anyway. Find everyone. No. How long ago was this? Many months. Maybe 8? 9? Hard to remember. She looked up at him suddenly, her large eyes bright with unshed tears. You really no sell Zara? Other humans say they help, but always lie. Other humans. Marcus felt a surge of anger at his own species. What other humans? First one say he take Zara to safe place. Instead, sell to ship captain. Ship captain say he find Zara family, but sell to station boss. Station boss say. She stopped, shaking her head. What did the station boss say? Say he make Zara useful. But Zara run away first. Hide in cargo pods until find your ship. Marcus sank into the room's single chair, the full picture becoming clear. Zara hadn't just been orphaned, she'd been passed around like cargo for months, each human promising help and delivering exploitation instead. No wonder she was so good at evaluating hiding spots. I'm not like them, he said quietly. You say that. They all say that. Fair enough. Marcus stood up and headed for the door. Come on, kid. Let's go shopping. Shopping? Mig for real food. The kind that won't explode when I try to cook it. The station's market level was a maze of stalls and vendors selling everything from exotic spices to weapons that probably violated several galactic treaties. Marcus kept Zara close, noting how she automatically positioned herself to keep obstacles between her and potential threats. They found a Tellurian food vendor, an elderly female with kind eyes and intricate facial markings. She took one look at Zara and immediately started fussing over her in rapid Tellurian, switching to Galactic Standard when she noticed Marcus. This child is malnourished, she announced as if Marcus were personally responsible for galactic hunger. When did she last have proper food? I'm working on that, Marcus said. She needs ingredients for Keth Ra, but I don't know what that is. The vendor's expression softened. Ah, comfort food. Very important for little ones far from home. She gathered items from her stall, explaining each one to Zara in their native language. Watching Zara's face light up as she recognized familiar foods was worth every credit Marcus spent. For the first time since he'd found her, she looked like what she was, a kid in a candy store. This one very kind, Zara whispered to Marcus as the vendor packed their purchases. Like grandmother Kess from home village. Yeah, she seems nice. Marcus paid the vendor, adding a generous tip that made the old Tellurian beam. Back in their quarters, Marcus watched Zara transform. The scared, careful child became animated and focused as she prepared the Keth Ra, explaining each step in her improving galactic standard. Her hands moved with practiced ease, and for the first time she seemed to forget to be afraid. "Mama teach Zara when very small," she said, kneading the dough. "Say cooking is like making art, but art you can eat." "Smart woman, your mama." "Yes, very smart." She say. Zara paused, biting her lip. She say home is not place. Home is people who love you. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. She sounds like she was a good mom. Best mama in whole galaxy. Zara smiled, then looked at Marcus with serious eyes. "You have family?" "No, it's just me." "That make you sad?" Marcus considered the question. A week ago he would have said no. Solitude was safer, simpler. But watching Zara carefully shape the keth ra, humming a tune from her lost homeworld, he realized his answer might be changing. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but maybe not anymore." 2 weeks into their stay at Outpost Gamma 7, and Marcus was learning that his reputation as a ruthless smuggler was apparently expanding in directions he'd never intended. His comm unit buzzed constantly with business opportunities from some of the galaxy's most unsavory characters. "Webb, you magnificent bastard." Grax Tolliver's voice boomed through the speaker. "Heard you've gone into the specialty trade. Got a client who's specifically looking for young Tellurian merchandise. Willing to pay triple standard rates." Marcus muted the comm and looked at Zara, who was curled up on the couch reading a datapad he'd bought her. She'd progressed from basic galactic standard to devouring children's stories, her quick mind soaking up knowledge like a sponge. "What's specialty trade?" she asked without looking up from her reading. "Nothing you need to worry about, kid." Marcus unmuted the comm. "Sorry, Grax. Not for sale." "Come on, Webb. Everyone's got a price. I'm talking serious credits here." "She's not ready yet," Marcus said, hating himself for playing along. "Still needs training." "Training? For what, exactly?" Marcus's mouth went dry. "You know, the usual." Grax's laugh made Marcus's skin crawl. Right, breaking them in proper. Smart thinking. These young ones can be feisty if you don't establish dominance early. But don't wait too long, clients prefer them fresh. The comm went dead, leaving Marcus staring at the silent device. Zara was watching him now, her expression unreadable. "Bad man again?" she asked. "Very bad man." "You tell him Zara not ready." "What Zara not ready for?" Marcus rubbed his temples where a headache was building. "It's complicated." "Zara not stupid. You pretend to be bad humans so other bad humans leave us alone?" "Sometimes the kid was too smart for her own good." "Something like that." "Is working?" "For now." For now." 3 days later, Marcus realized for now had just expired. Vex Carlin arrived at the station unannounced, and Marcus's carefully constructed charade was about to be put to the ultimate test. "Time for inspection," Vex announced, pushing his way into their quarters. "Been hearing interesting things about your new acquisition, and I want to see what all the fuss is about." Zara, who'd been practicing her writing, immediately went still. Marcus had coached her on this scenario, but theory and practice were very different things. "She's not ready for clients yet," Marcus said, positioning himself between Vex and Zara. "Ready or not, I need to evaluate the merchandise. Got buyers lined up, and they're getting impatient." Vex's eyes fixed on Zara with predatory interest. "Come here, little one. Let Uncle Vex get a good look at you." Zara didn't move. Marcus felt sweat beating on his forehead. "She doesn't understand commands yet," he said quickly. "Still working on basic obedience training." "Then maybe it's time for a practical demonstration." Vex pulled out a neural prod, its tip crackling with energy. "Nothing teaches respect like a little pain." No. The word was out before Marcus could stop it. Vex raised an eyebrow. No? That's not very convincing, Webb. Starting to think the rumors about you going soft might be true. Marcus's hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm, but Vex was faster. The neural prod was suddenly pressed against Zara's neck, making her whimper. Here's what's going to happen, Vex said calmly. You're going to show me how well you've trained your little pet, or I'm going to show you how it's really done. Time slowed to a crawl. Marcus could see the fear in Zara's eyes, but also something else, trust. She was looking at him like she believed he'd protect her, even though every human in her experience had eventually betrayed that trust. You want a demonstration? Marcus asked, his voice deadly quiet. That's the spirit. You know. Marcus smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Here's your demonstration. The punch caught Vex completely off guard, sending the neural prod spinning across the room. Marcus followed up with a knee to the solar plexus that doubled the crime boss over, gasping. Rule number 1, Marcus said, grabbing Vex by the collar. Nobody touches the kid. You're making a mistake, Vex wheezed. Rule number 2, I don't care. Marcus dragged Vex to the door and threw him into the corridor. Tell your buyers the merchandise is permanently off the market. And if I see you near her again, I'll show you what humans are really capable of when we're motivated. He sealed the door and turned to find Zara staring at him with wide eyes. But you fight for Zara, she said, sounding amazed. Yeah, well, don't get used to it. I'm usually much more cowardly. No, Zara said firmly. You brave. You good human. Marcus sank into his chair, adrenaline still coursing through his system. Kid, I think we just made a very powerful enemy. Is okay, Zara said, returning to her writing practice. Zara have powerful friend too. Looking at her calm confidence, Marcus realized she was right. Somewhere along the way, protecting this kid had become more important than protecting his reputation. The galaxy expected the worst from humanity, and Marcus had spent years living down to those expectations. Maybe it was time to try living up to something better. Marcus should have known that punching Vex Carlin in the face would have consequences. What he hadn't expected was for those consequences to arrive at 3 in the morning, armed with military-grade weapons and a serious lack of patience. Marcus Webb, you are in violation of several contractual agreements, announced the voice from outside their quarters. Surrender the asset, and we might let you live. Marcus was already moving, grabbing his emergency kit and shaking Zara awake. Time to go, kid. Remember what we practiced. Zara nodded, instantly alert. Living on the run had given her survival instincts that most adults never developed. Bad men coming? The worst. Marcus sealed his emergency supplies in a small pack. Stay close, stay quiet, and if I tell you to run, you run. No arguments. Yee. The door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. 6 figures in tactical gear poured through the breach, weapons raised. Marcus recognized the lead figure even with the helmet. Vex had brought professionals. There he is. Vex's voice crackled through his suit's speaker. Remember, I want the girl alive and unmarked. Webb, well, Webb's expendable. Marcus dove behind the couch, pulling Zara with him. Plasma bolts sizzled over their heads, leaving scorch marks on the walls. The quarters were too small for a prolonged firefight. They needed to move. The ventilation shaft, Marcus whispered. Can you reach it? Zara nodded, her face pale but determined. Marcus laid down covering fire, his pistol barking in the confined space. The tactical team took cover, buying Zara precious seconds to scramble up the wall and disappear into the air duct. The asset is mobile, one of the mercenaries shouted. Kareem, circle around. Cut off the maintenance level. Marcus grimaced. So much for the element of surprise. He fired 3 more shots, then rolled toward the door. A plasma bolt missed him by inches, leaving a crater in the floor where he'd been lying. The station's corridors were chaos. Emergency lights flashed red, and automated warnings echoed from every speaker. Other residents were sealing themselves in their quarters, wanting no part of whatever was happening. Marcus couldn't blame them. "Zara," he called into his comm unit. "Where are you?" In the walls, her voice came back, distorted but clear. "Moving toward the docking bay like you said." "Good girl. I'm right behind you." That was a lie. Marcus was currently pinned down in a maintenance alcove, while 3 armed mercenaries methodically searched the corridor. But Zara didn't need to know that. His comm buzzed with an incoming message, but Vex's ugly face appeared on the screen, grinning. "This is taking longer than expected, Webb. How about we make a deal?" "Go to hell." Such language. And in front of the child, too. She can hear us, can't she? "Through that comm system of yours?" Marcus's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" "Simple trade. You come out nice and peaceful, and I promise the girl won't suffer." "Much." "Counteroffer," Marcus said. "You leave now, and I won't hunt you down and feed you to a black hole." Vex laughed. "You know what your problem is, Webb? You care too much. Makes you predictable." Mercenaries were getting closer. Marcus could hear their footsteps, the whispered communications between team members. In about 30 seconds, they'd have his position triangulated. "Marcus?" Zara's voice was small and scared. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, kid. Just keep moving." "But you sound different. Like when you're lying about not being hungry so Zara can have extra food." Damn, the kid knew him too well. "Zara, listen to me very carefully. Get to the docking bay. There's a ship called the Stellar Drift in Berth 7. Tell Captain Reese that Marcus Webb sent you, and that you need passage to the neutral zone." "What about you?" "I'll catch up." "Meh. You're lying again." Marcus closed his eyes. "Yeah, kid, I'm lying again." "Then Zara, come back. Help Marcus fight bad men." "No." Marcus's voice was sharper than he intended. "You keep going. You get to safety. That's an order." There was a long pause. "Then Marcus?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for giving Zara name. Real name, not just asset or merchandise. Thank you for making Zara feel like person again." The mercenaries rounded the corner just as Marcus felt his heart break. He came out firing, determined to buy Zara every second he could. The first merc went down hard, his armor sparking from a direct hit. The second dove for cover, cursing. Marcus sprinted for the maintenance shaft, plasma bolts chasing him. He hauled himself into the narrow space, following the path Zara had taken. Behind him, he could hear Vex screaming orders. "Don't lose them. I want that girl, and I want Webb's head." The maintenance tunnels were a maze of pipes and conduits barely wide enough for a grown man. Marcus crawled through the darkness, guided by the faint glow of his wrist light and the sound of Zara's movements ahead of him. "I can see the docking bay," Zara's voice came through his comm. "But there are bad men waiting." "How many?" "Well, 3. Maybe 4. They have big guns." Marcus checked his weapon. 2 shots left. Against 4 professionals with military hardware, that wasn't going to be enough. "Zara, I need you to listen very carefully. There's another way out of this, but you're not going to like it." "Tell Zara." "The cargo airlock on level 3. It's not being watched because it's too dangerous, no atmosphere suits. But if you can hold your breath for 30 seconds, You can get to the emergency pods. What about Marcus? I'm going to keep them busy. Give you time to escape. No, we escape together or not at all. Marcus smiled despite everything. Kid, you're the most stubborn person I've ever met. Learn from the best. The tunnel ahead opened into a junction. Marcus could see lights spilling up from the docking bay below. And there, crouched in the shadows, was Zara. She'd waited for him, just like he'd known she would. Together? She asked. Marcus checked his pistol one more time. Together? Mew. 6 months later, Marcus still couldn't believe how much his life had changed. The wandering ghost had been renamed the New Hope, Zara's idea, though she'd insisted on painting little stars around the ship's name in traditional Tellurian script. It was completely impractical and made the ship easier to identify, but Marcus didn't have the heart to remove it. Marcus, the salvage scanner is picking up something big, Zara called from the pilot's seat. Her galactic standard was flawless now, though she still slipped into Tellurian when she was excited. Looks like a derelict freighter, maybe 50 years old. Any signs of life? Negative. But the cargo hold is sealed, so there might be something valuable inside. Marcus smiled. Legitimate salvage work was far less profitable than smuggling, but it was also far less likely to get them shot at. Most days that seemed like a fair trade. Take us in for a closer look, Captain Zara. She beamed at the title. Marcus had made it official 3 months ago, filing papers with the Galactic Commerce Authority that listed her as his business partner. The bureaucrat who'd processed the paperwork had done a double take at seeing a human and Tellurian listed as family, but credits were credits, too, and the authority didn't ask too many questions as long as the taxes were paid. Docking successful, Zara announced. Want me to prep the boarding equipment? You know the drill. Atmosphere suits, emergency beacons, and no wandering off by yourself. You worry too much, Uncle Marcus. Uncle Marcus. The title still caught him off guard sometimes, but in the best possible way. Zara had started using it about a month after their escape from Outpost Gamma 7, when the nightmares had finally stopped and she'd begun to trust that he wasn't going anywhere. The derelict freighter turned out to be a treasure trove of rare metals and pre-war electronics. Not enough to make them rich, but sufficient to keep the New Hope running for another few months. As they worked side by side, cataloging salvage and loading cargo, Marcus reflected on how natural it all felt. Marcus. Zara's voice came through the comm system. I found something weird in the captain's quarters. Weird how? Come see. Marcus made his way through the ghost ship's corridors, his boots echoing in the empty space. He found Zara in front of a wall display showing family photos, the freighter's crew with their children, all smiling and happy. They were family, Zara said quietly. The whole crew, parents, children, grandparents, all working together. Yeah, it looks like it. Is that normal for humans? Marcus considered the question. Some humans, the smart ones. Zara nodded seriously. We are smart humans too, right? The smartest, Marcus confirmed. Even if one of us is technically Tellurian. Details. Zara waved dismissively, then grew serious again. Marcus, do you ever regret it? Taking Zara instead of leaving her with the enforcement officers? The question hit him like a physical blow. Good. That's the one thing I've never regretted. Not for a single second. Even though you lost your old life? Your criminal friends, your reputation, all the credits you could have made? Marcus looked around the abandoned ship, then at Zara's earnest face. You want to know a secret? I was miserable before. I had credits, sure, and I had a reputation. But I didn't have anyone who cared if I came home at night. I didn't have anyone to worry about, or anyone to make proud, or anyone to teach bad cooking techniques to. Your cooking is much better now, Zara said diplomatically. Liar. But I appreciate the effort. They finished their salvage work as the ship's artificial day cycle wound down. Marcus plotted a course for the nearest trading post while Zara prepared dinner. She'd taken over cooking duties after the great protein synthesizer incident of 3 months ago. Marcus? Zara said as they ate. What happened to the bad man? Vex? Mendex. Still in prison, last I heard. Turns out attacking a space station and endangering civilians carries some serious penalties. Who knew? Good, he was very bad man. Yes, he was, but he's not our problem anymore. After dinner, Zara curled up with her datapad, reading another story about families and adventures. Marcus tried to focus on the ship's maintenance logs, but his attention kept drifting to the kid who'd accidentally saved his soul. The galaxy had expected the worst from him. Every alien who'd looked at him with Zara had seen a predator, a slaver, a monster. And for most of his adult life, he'd been content to live down to those expectations. It was easier, somehow, to be what people expected rather than trying to be something better. But Zara had never expected anything from him except kindness. She'd been betrayed by humans before, had every reason to assume he'd be just like the others. Instead, she'd chosen to trust him, to believe in him, to give him a chance to be the person he'd forgotten he could be. Uncle Marcus? Zara's voice was drowsy. Kautsai. When I was little, before the bad times, Mama used to tell me stories about the ancient heroes, warriors who fought monsters and saved people. Yeah? What about them? They were always big and strong and had magic swords. But I think maybe real heroes are just people who choose to be good when being bad would be easier. Marcus looked at her. This remarkable kid who'd survived horrors that would have broken most adults, who'd learned to trust again, and who'd chosen to see the best in him when everyone else saw the worst. You know what, kid? I think you might be right. Of course I'm right. I'm very smart. The smartest person I know. As Zara drifted off to sleep, Marcus returned to his maintenance logs. But his mind was elsewhere, thinking about the family photos on the derelict ship, about the life he'd accidentally stumbled into, about the kid who'd called him uncle, and meant it. The galaxy still had its opinions about humanity. Some of those opinions were deserved, some weren't, and most were too complicated for easy answers. But Marcus had learned something important over the past 6 months. Sometimes the most important person to prove wrong is yourself. He'd spent decades believing he was exactly what the galaxy expected, selfish, violent, irredeemable. It had taken one scared alien child to show him that expectations were just starting points, not destinations. Marcus Webb, former smuggler and current salvage operator, smiled as he worked late into the night, planning routes and calculating profits. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, and probably at least one lecture from Zara about proper nutrition or ship maintenance or whatever else she'd been reading about. He couldn't wait,